Hola, hola. Thank you for joining us. Friday, October 18th, 2024. Hamilton here, joining with our co-host, Josh. Josh, what's up?
Good morning. I mean, what's not up? All of crypto at this point this week.
I was going to say it's a long time coming. Finally, we have one of these Friday sessions scheduled, and it's not just this dreary glib of it'll probably happen, but not yet. We finally have some cool stuff in the works, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's definitely been a grind for the last 7 months for anyone who's been being chopped up. But it looks like, as of right now, Bitcoin is going to continue this rally and get this bull market started. Sitting at well over 68K at this point, 68.4, and things are heating up. People are getting excited. I'm definitely one of those folks.
One of the biggest differences, I would say, over the last couple of months in Bitcoin, but it hasn't really been apparent. First things first, I have to say, nothing changes sentiment like price, right? As soon as price starts to hit higher highs, everybody's bold again, which I guess makes sense. But obviously with an asset as emotionally stimulating as something like Bitcoin or whatever, when BTC starts to hit higher highs, people get really jacked up, and they should this time, right? They should, because something different is going on. Momentum is actually back in the bulls' court for longer than a couple of days for the first time since BTC peaked in Q1 of 2024, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can look at the monthly chart of Bitcoin, and I can't really name a more beautiful chart. Essentially, what I've been talking to with folks in TTI for a long time is that we are in just the mother of all cup and handles on this monthly chart, and we're finally seeing that breakout of that downtrend that we've been in for the last 7 months. And yeah, the chart looks fantastic. You were saying that everyone's excited. It helps that with the crypto markets are open 24/7, so you can be excited at any time of the day. You can wake up at 2 a.m. and check the charts and be exuberant. You don't have to wait for the New York Open. And so, yeah, there's definitely a lot of excitement and a lot of preparedness going into what might be one of the biggest bull markets crypto's seen, obviously dependent on the outcome of the U.S. election.
So let me yield back from this particular chart. Obviously, everybody's looking at this. You just looked at it on the monthly. It looks fantastic. You're looking at it on the daily. It looks really good as well. But let me yield back here to a chart that we've discussed a lot in TTI over the last few weeks. That's MSTR. So the idea here, and we don't have to get into the actual tangibles of MSTR and how it trades at a premium and everything, but from a technical standpoint, we do have to understand that Microstrategy tends to front run Bitcoin, and it's also in between 2 and 3 times the volatility that Bitcoin trades. And so what we saw over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, was Microstrategy finally broke out into all-time highs, and it's sticking these all-time highs. It came back down and retested that 185, 186 area. It's finding support, and potentially with an earnings report coming up, there's going to be a catalyst for another shove higher. So extrapolating that idea out, these are very correlated assets, MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. Extrapolating this idea out, MicroStrategy's at all-time high. It's holding the pivot point. Is it not a clue for what could happen with Bitcoin?
Yeah, absolutely. And MicroStrategy, I believe is one of the best performing, if not the best performing equities since 2020. And, compared to the Bitcoin bottom, it's done a 5x compared to the limited returns over the last little while for Bitcoin. And so, yeah, I do think it is a proxy for risk on to Bitcoin, and seeing that break out to all-time highs, I think is a warning or an omen for Bitcoin that we're also going that direction. And, it's going to be a volatile ride, but Bitcoin is going to all-time highs. I would strongly believe that.
If you think about it really quick, just from a very basic, risk to reward analysis between owning Bitcoin or MicroStrategy as a trading vehicle, and I need to stress that we're thinking about this only as a trading vehicle, has nothing to do with the technology or the health of the company or whatever. It doesn't matter. But from a trading vehicle, MicroStrategy offers traditional, financial investors and traders an opportunity to trade or invest in Bitcoin at a 2 to 3x volatility rate as Bitcoin. So as you can see, the ADR of MicroStrategy trading at 7.3%. And then when we go back and we look at Bitcoin, which is not a slow moving per se in the TradFi market, asset at 3.3 ADR, but MicroStrategy is more than double. So from a pure trading vehicle standpoint, for those traders and investors that are looking for exposure to Bitcoin through the TradFi market, MicroStrategy offers essentially a levered opportunity to own or trade Bitcoin. That's why I think MicroStrategy's breakout to all-time high is so important, because if the TradFi market, which is notoriously very smart, if the TradFi market starts to throw all-time highs in MicroStrategy, why would it not also follow through over to Bitcoin, right? So there's confluence there. Not only do we have the technicals on the backside of BTC, we have rising momentum. We have a series of higher highs off those August 5th lows. The 200-day moving average is starting to even back out. We're above the 50 RSI. And once again, once we're above 70K, that big round psychological number, it's party time. So I'm going to put you on the spot. I know we did this months ago, but guess what? We've held through for the last couple of months with our original positions on the books. Give me a price target that is realistic and a price target that might seem ridiculous but could still hit this cycle.
And we're talking for Bitcoin specifically here.
Only Bitcoin right now.
Only Bitcoin. Okay, so I think my conservative target is about 113, 114. Oh, sorry, 113, 114,000 for Bitcoin. Largely based on just looking at fibs from the whole range, as well as this kind of cup and handle breakout. Now, dependent on the outcome of the election and anything that relates to crypto, as that's related, whether that's the SEC or the rumors of a strategic Bitcoin reserve for the United States. My outlandish is like 215. Just
this cycle high.
Tack on another 100K. This cycle high.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna target the 113, 114 as the initial, and then figure it out from there. But kind of have ideas about just getting over 200. Exuberance will be through the roof. People are saying, "Oh my gosh, it's going to 500. Oh my gosh, it's going to 1 million." Larry Fink is out there shilling this week, saying that they believe Bitcoin will be 1.6 million or 2.5 million, and the same size as the U.S. housing market. So I think those kind of headlines are just going to continue to ramp up as we do crack through that 100 into 115 area. And so that might be kind of the jet fuel to eventually have a blow off top and then reverse everyone's gains.
I mean, this is an asset that trades in cycles just like everything. And so, I have my own price targets. They're a lot more conservative than yours, but I don't think that overarching idea of something going parabolic and really just going to the stratosphere for a relatively short amount of time on the grand scale of things. Obviously, BTC has been trading for 14 years now or something like that. To see a 6 months to 12 months exuberance absolutely could happen. I have no idea. I will tell you, if we do hit that 200K price target, I will be very, very wealthy. So I hope it does happen, and I hope it happens this cycle. So that's great. Okay, really quick, let's move on. There's a little less to talk about in some of the other majors, but we're going to touch upon Ethereum. You know that we've had this vendetta against Ethereum. Bitcoin showing not only dominance, but once again that it wants to potentially break out to all-time highs. We've had this vendetta against Ethereum because it's weak on both a relative and an absolute basis. We do not want to own assets that are weak on both of those. Give me your 30-second spiel on Ethereum. Is it even worth looking at right now? And I don't want to know what your personal idea with Ethereum is in regards to the tech, just the chart.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the technical side, it's not worth looking to take a trade right now. We are below the 7-month chop range that we dropped out of on that massive liquidation cascade. We are well below the 200-day moving average. We are, I believe, 40 to 44% off of the all-time high versus Bitcoin's off, 5%, I believe, 6% from its all-time high. And so it's just not in the chart right now. You want to watch for that to get above the 200-day moving average and then reclaim that previous range around 29.50. That's when we can start talking about taking a long off the range support lows. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. If you look at the ETH BTC chart on the daily, it does look like it may have bottomed. And so at this point, if you're sitting in Ethereum, I feel like everyone has a little bit of Ethereum in their portfolio, regardless of who you are. This may not be the time to swap it or sell it into something else while waiting for kind of Bitcoin's next big move into either all-time highs or a possible pullback into the mid range at 65, 66K before going higher. And so yeah, I think if you're sitting on Ethereum, hold on to it for a little bit longer and just wait. If you see it drop out on that ETH BTC floor, swap that to SOL or BTC, whichever is showing the most strength or complements your portfolio the most. Otherwise, yeah, you shouldn't be looking for ETH longs right now. I made one quick argument to folks in TTI this week that if we were comparing, this week's price action on Ethereum and levels relative to all-time high versus 2020 on the exact same date, Ethereum looked very similar. It ended up having a hated rally back in 2020. Mid-October, it was, I believe, 64% off of its all-time high, and it later went on in the following 6 months to run from $433-ish to $4,100. So Ethereum is known to have these hated rallies, but as of right now, from a trading vehicle perspective, doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense. Solana, 30 seconds. Buy, don't buy? What do you like about it?
I mean, I think everyone loves Solana, and I would even say it's a buy, especially at these levels right here, just above the 200-day moving average. Solana has been one of the only majors, maybe excluding BNB, that's held its range over the last 7 months. I know we've talked probably nearly every week about Solana and how bullish it looks, and I couldn't agree more. The only item that I think is worth discussing, if you look at the SOL BTC chart, BTC is still relatively outperforming all of the majors. So if you have limited capital, or if you're trying to look at the most bang for your buck, it still makes sense to be majority holding Bitcoin versus any of the other majors. Obviously, other altcoins can run way faster. There are meme coins, things like that. But if you're looking specifically at majors, Bitcoin is the best and fastest horse right now. But on a comparison of SOL to ETH, SOL outperforms it across the board this cycle so far, and the setup looks good. Above this 200-day moving average, take this up to 200, take some profit, and then see if you can move that up to all-time highs. Only asterisk is the 200-day moving average is starting to curl downwards, but I think if we do get that Bitcoin all-time high break, or move towards 70 plus K, coins are all going to move generally in tandem, maybe just not as fast as Bitcoin, and so we should see those 200-day moving averages that are all kind of curling down across the board start to curl back upwards.
Well, here's one that's not curling down. The last major coin, Binance. This actually looks like arguably the best setup out of all of them outside of Bitcoin right now. To me, this looks like it's held better than Solana over the very short term here. I know, obviously, we've had this conversation before, but Solana, I think, looks fantastic. Binance coin, I also think it looks fantastic. And over the last couple of weeks, it looks like, the 200-day moving average on Binance coin is still slightly starting to slope back up. We're above the 50 RSI. We're not that far off from 52-week highs. What do you think here with BNB coin?
Absolutely. I've written about BNB a few times in the last few weeks. I think it looks fantastic. You and I have talked about this many times. The 200-day moving average, it looks relatively flat or looking ready to curl up. It's been kind of compressing up into that upper resistance band between 615 and 633. And so BNB's continue to make, relatively on the daily, higher highs and higher lows going into this bullish momentum from Bitcoin. So I think it's an excellent chart, and it's, a rock's throw away from an all-time high. So if you're looking to get exposure, the asterisk with BNB is that it's not tradable on a lot of exchanges that folks in TTI, as an example, would be trading on, right? As the Binance coin, it's not exactly available on Coinbase. So you will have to look for that at other options or even going on chain. But yeah, the chart looks fantastic. I'd personally say 635 risk on for myself. But others may want to wait until we see a break of that 700 to get above that spike from early summer of this year.
I just want to reiterate something that you said earlier before we get into the two trades that we want to talk through. I got about 5 minutes left and then I got to go. You did say that nearly everything is probably going to do pretty okay. With outside, probably Ethereum will have that hated rally as well, but Bitcoin's going to do well. Solana is probably going to do fine. Binance is going to do fine. The problem when everything is working is the fact that most people don't have a system in place to figure out where the best trading opportunity lies. And so they get caught in something like, I'm just hypothetically throwing this out here. Let's say you own Solana and Binance is moving at twice as fast as Solana, but you don't want to get out of Solana because it's working, and you end up making 25% on a Solana trade where Binance went 50 to 75%. That is the worry in a market where everything is moving. TradFi, it happens all the time. We call them everything markets in TTI. That is the bane of a bull market's existence when everything is working, because it's harder to find the leaders than it is when only a few things are working. When only 10% of the market is really pulling the market up, you can identify those 10% fairly easy and trade just those names. When everything is working, like will probably happen with this crypto market, it's going to be a lot harder to figure out where the leaders are, and therefore the chance of underperforming whatever ends up happening here within this upcoming bull market for crypto obviously is a lot higher. So keep that in mind if you're listening to this. Focus on the leaders, have an idea somewhere. Obviously, Josh will keep the guys inside of TTI as well prepared as we can. So I have, once again, about 3 minutes now. We'll stick with one. Just give me the best trade idea right now that you have from the altcoin space, and we'll talk through it.
Yeah, so I'll preface two things. One, Bitcoin dominance is one of the most important charts in the crypto markets. And as Bitcoin climbs, especially now, it acts as a liquidity vacuum and pulls liquidity out of all of everyone's favorite altcoins. So right now, Bitcoin dominance looks like it's breaking new highs, which is why we're seeing an outperformance of Bitcoin versus altcoins. So keeping that in mind, and what Hamilton just said about picking the fastest horse, one beneficial way is you should always, if you're going to be trading altcoins, you should always be aiming to outperform Bitcoin as kind of the baseline. So whether you miss a trade that is 50% on Solana versus 25% on Ethereum, as long as you're outperforming Bitcoin, at least you're outperforming kind of the baseline average. One thing you can do is compare any altcoin against its BTC pair to see how it's faring. And if it's not outperforming Bitcoin, then maybe it doesn't make sense to trade that asset. The one asset I wanted to look at today was Aptos, APT USDT. And, I'm looking to take this long at about 1075. Kind of had a rounded bottom break, very similar to that of 2023 after its big run up when it first debuted. And so I'm looking to see if we can take that back out of this rounded bottom and see how it performs relative to Bitcoin, with targets generally looking at the first take profit of 1275 and then further to the current resistance that is the all-time high level.
So something I want to throw out here really quick before somebody looks at this and goes, why the hell would you buy this right here when previous price action was up and over this? Something that we focus on inside of TTI a lot is previous price action absolutely matters. But in this day and age, we have this wonderful indicator called the VRVP. And what this allows us to do is look at volume by price, not just volume by time like you have on the x-axis here. So the y-axis, we can actually enable volume, and we can look at specific price points and see how many shares actually, or in this case, tokens, traded at these specific price points. And so what we notice when we get up and over 1050, for example, is that yes, we have traded here in the past, but there was not a whole lot of supply up here. So in the TA 101, you don't want to be buying longs in an environment, excuse me, in an environment where potentially overhead supply can come in and kick down that breakout. There's not a whole lot of overhead supply there that we have to worry about, right?
Exactly. Absolutely. And it has the benefit as well that, this coin is available on Coinbase. It is a layer one, which has kind of been the hot topic recently with the explosion of, assets like Sui. And so looking to take this long, I think makes sense. It kind of falls along that narrative of strong L1s or things that could be, in quotes, a Solana killer, though I don't think we're actually going to see that cycle.
I think the setup's valid. Why not? If everything starts moving, things like these are probably going to outperform. Particularly, the last thing I want to say before we hop off is keep in mind about that Bitcoin dominance comment that he made. It's important because when or if this market does break out into a bull market full on, there will be a time when Bitcoin dominance starts to fall. Bitcoin does not need to lose value for dominance necessarily to fall, right? Liquidity could be entering the market, but going to other assets outside of Bitcoin, such as altcoins. And if that's the case, names like Aptos, names that are setting up that have huge ADRs, I'm talking very high beta trading opportunities, all of a sudden, all of that liquidity entering the market, that's going to leak into it, and it's not going to Bitcoin. Where's it going to go? Or it's going to find other areas of the crypto space to go into, and a lot of these are going to outperform. So when you start to see that Bitcoin dominance flip a little bit, start to hit a downtrend or whatever starts to top out, and you match that with a rising market cap, which you can use ticker TOTAL. When this starts to kick back up and Bitcoin dominance starts to slide, you know it's game time for altcoins. We call that what, Josh? Altcoin season, baby.
Altcoin season.
That's when you start getting the absolute insane gains. Okay, that's it for me. Anything else you want to add here before we call it a session, Josh?
I think that's about it. Keep an eye on Bitcoin. Keep an eye on dominance. Check your alts against the Bitcoin pair. Use things like Total 2, Total 3, or others, which exclude the majors, so you can kind of understand where liquidity is sitting at in the crypto markets. And let's brace for a ride to all-time highs. Hopefully, when we chat next week, we'll be up and above $70,000.
Oh yeah, hopefully we're there by Sunday. Who knows? Like you said, it never closes, right? We just need a couple really big whales that are dedicated over the weekend to get us over that. Come on, guys. Come on.
Well, I was just saying that there's quant information coming out right now saying that this is the most aggressive buying by Bitcoin whales in the history of Bitcoin on an activity related basis. So
don't jinx it. Don't jinx it.
I know. And ETFs have poured, I think just under $3 billion into Bitcoin spot ETF products this week. So there's definitely an institutional and a whale right now buying the dip or any dips that do occur. So let's hope this continues into the weekend and into all-time highs.
Josh, as always, it's a pleasure. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in with us every Friday as we talk through the crypto space, try to make it a little bit easier from a trading perspective to hopefully maneuver through it. It's been a very, I don't want to say boring or difficult, but just not a whole lot going on through the summer. Markets are like that sometimes, but it looks like we finally are starting to turn the corner and there should be some exciting stuff coming up here. Enjoy the rest of your Friday and your weekend. Josh, talk to you next Friday.
Thanks, Hamilton.